This video is brought to you by Harold Sack, who gave me a massive 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon. Rendmaw Creaking Nest versus Sauron, the Ancient One, and Aminatou. Get another chance to see if Aminatou is going to perform any better on this video. We have Ramp in the form of Overlord of the Haunt Woods, which means we can get our commander out a turn sooner at least, so it's still slow, but no real reason to ship it back. The Surveil lands make these hands a lot more easy to keep nowadays. Springheart Nantuko is something that we can make use of in the early game. We'll make use of the fetch land now to go for a tap land though, even though we could make another insect with this. And Surveiling on top is another black creatures matters, I think. Deals damage equal to twice the number of creatures that player controls with flying. Yeah, I think we're still a ways from that, unfortunately, as much as I'd like to try that out. Let's just put that in the graveyard and try to get into some card draw. Sauron plays out the first spell in Felwar Stone, and after drawing into Nylea, we will make the second spell with the Nantuko. And it wasn't a turn 1 Sol Ring, but a turn 2 Sol Ring's pretty damn close. Went for a tap land on turn 1, so after that, a Mind Stone, and again we're seeing the early Sol Rings after the bans. Something weird going on Magic Online. Oh, there was a Sol Talisman exiled here as well. So another couple of turns, there'll be another, what is effectively a Sol Ring coming into play. And then decides to scoop because he's not going to get his fast mana quickly enough apparently. So it's yet another block for our friend. Talisman for Sauron. Alright, and for the late game here, and Azuri's Predation can upgrade all of our tokens to 4/4s. So get down the basic, make our first insect token with the Nantuko, and then go for the impending 4 onto this, so eventually have a 6/5, but get a land token into play tapped with this as well. And when the land token enters, that's what it looks like. Don't think I've seen this one before either, but when it enters, we get an insect token again. So that means we do get a turn 4 Rendmaw into play at the end of our next turn. Verge Rangers for Aminatou. Yeah, that'd be handy to be able to look at the top card of your library at any time to know if you're ready to go for a miracle or not. Bolting down the Fellmire as well. And down to 4 cards in hand, able to draw cards during his opponent's turns with the Wavebreak Hippocamp. No mana to actually be able to go for the miracle though, but with the fast mana acceleration we've got half a chance of seeing a decent game with this commander. Don't know if we've seen one on this channel yet. And then it's straight into a Toxic Deluge. I wasn't all that desperate to keep hold of the Nantuko and the insects, but yeah, not to worry. Anyway, they get down a Felden of the Third Path after that as well. And we see a Tear Asunder, which could come in handy. But I think I do want to get down the Rendmaw here. So when it enters, we get a bunch of blackbirds into play, and that will trigger when we cast something with multiple card types, which we don't have too much of at the moment, only the Nylea, which we might have to cast next turn. Aminatou the Veil Piercer, and the bird does have to swing in at his opponent. Chainer Nightmare Adept to go alongside the Felden of the Third Path. Doesn't seem as though he has much to do with a Chainer. And then again, the bird does have to swing in. So let's see, okay, we get another land to make for the turn. I think we can, yeah, keep hold of the spot removal that's in our hand and play Boseiju as a land. And that means that, yeah, we can go for something like Reap or the Assassin's Trophy if we want to, maybe even Tear Asunder if we don't want to take out a creature. But we should be able to deal with any problem enchantments that Aminatou can actually get into, so let's play the Nylea and continue on with the game plan of Rendmaw. So triggering the Rendmaw, because that is both an enchantment and a creature. And I'll swing the commander into the left because it has Menace, and the flyer can go into the right. I'll just try and look like I'm spreading the damage around here. And it just so happens that we're playing up against quite a few black creatures anyway, even without the bird tokens to account for, so I'm hoping that Reap will be able to do some work for us. The penultimate counter being removed from this, so on our next end step that will become a creature. Still got a couple of turns before we can swing in with it though. So Aminatou seeing the first Surveil 2, throwing, I think he threw away a Marsh Flats there. Plays Orzhov's Signet, 3 cards in hand. And then a Revel in Riches, which cares about creatures dying, so you're going to have to be careful with that, but there's no need to remove it straight away. So looks as though our opponent's not betting on getting any miracles down. The birds, it's obvious where they need to swing in. Ah, there we are. Chainer did have a plan for it after all. Jingataxius being discarded by that thing. So going to make use of... Does this make it an artifact? Yes it does, so that means we can use the Tear Asunder onto it. But it doesn't keep this... Yeah, that's the problem with Feldon. It keeps the creature in the graveyard and just makes a copy of it. So do we want to hold on to the Tear Asunder so that we can exile the original Jingataxius if it ever gets reanimated? I imagine our opponent's just relying on making copies with the Feldon. So we could go for Tear Asunder onto this so that it doesn't do anything too harmful to us, and then Assassin's Trophy onto that next turn. All the damage is going into the left, which is good, so we will allow Jingataxius to hit. Alright, so this triggers at the end step, I think. And then a Dimir Signet after that, going down to 1 card in hand, which is where we hope they are going to stay. So yeah, I'll use Tear Asunder onto the Jingataxius. Obviously exiling a token here, but we can use Assassin's Trophy on the Feldon, unlike with the Tear Asunder, unless we want to put 4 mana into it, which I don't think is going to be all that good for us. Noteworthy that we can return any cards with this, they're not permanents. So we could always grab back Assassin's Trophy and Tear Asunder quite easily. But they didn't get to draw 7 cards at the end there at least. Alright, another land with the Urza's Saga, so no reason not to play that out really. That is both an enchantment and a land, so it triggers the Rendmaw, and we're only 1 mana away from the Urza's Predation coming online, so that can be a one-sided wrath for us. Which means we're just holding up mana for Assassin's Trophy and Reap, and maybe activations on the Nylea as well. So let's go through to attacks, and I think I'm going to keep pressuring the Aminatou player, because it's reasonably predictable what the Grixis player is going to do over here. So knocking him down to 12, he's on 10 commander damage, and he definitely needs a miracle over there now. Overlord of the Hauntwoods finally becomes a creature when the last impending counter is removed at the end step. So next turn we'll be able to start swinging. The lands do come into play tapped, but I don't think it's too likely that we're going to lose out on these land tokens throughout the game. Cracking a land for a Surveil at the end of the turn there. So we could always go after Aminatou and maybe see if we can get rid of some kind of miracle enchantment off the top of their library, but we'd never know either way if it was the right move to make. Obviously we can't see what our opponent draws into. Noteworthy that our opponents have 8 black creature cards in play at the moment, so we could, instant speed for 2 mana, return 8 cards from our graveyard into our hand. Mesa Enchantress, 2 cards in hand, see if he's got an enchantment. Obviously didn't manage to miracle anything out. Still haven't seen, as I alluded to before, still haven't seen a good game with Aminatou. 6 damage from our birds dealt to the right. And we've done a good job of depleting our opponent's life totals here with birds coming into play and having to attack in every turn. It's all mounted up. A big spell coming in here from the Grixis player. Alright, and deciding to throw out his commander. So may well be able to just go straight up for Jingataxius from this. Hard to think of another creature that would be better than that. But he does get to mill 5. You'll never guess what we see. A Sol Ring in the bin. Rogue's Passage. A Rampaging War Mammoth. Buried Alive. And a 2 Greed Elite 2 Deep. And there we see Jingataxius did indeed get reanimated and is given haste because of the Chainer. They've amassed Orcs 5 as well. So I have to imagine that Jingataxius is going to come in at us. It's probably a 2-on-1 at this point. But I think we'll just take the damage, see if Aminatou wants to do anything during combat in order to save his life total. The commander is going to get haste from the Chainer as well. I forgot about the command zone trigger on Chainer. So we know the birds aren't coming towards us at least. The commander's going into the left. That is a 9-9 with trample. And wow, the 5-4's going there as well. He has absolutely... Maybe he's just trying to get rid of the Esper player so he can start using these birds against us. I'm amazed he's not giving us any hate whatsoever though. Maybe he's trying to keep his Jingataxius in play so that maybe if he doesn't attack us we won't take it out. And apparently he is forcing Aminatou to do something. Maybe a Settle the Wreckage. No, instead it is an Ink Shield. For each 1 damage that would be prevented, put an Inkling into play. So that's even more black creatures that are coming into play, so the Reap is going to be really, really good. Thankfully for our opponents, we don't have that many creatures in the bin, or that many cards in the bin. But drawing into a Massacre Worm or something would be excellent for us. So I suppose we could have destroyed the Jingataxius in response to that to make it so that there were 5 fewer Inklings. Whatever. I'm hoping for a land into Azori's Predation next turn, so let's go after the Jingataxius so that the hand isn't refilled. And the creature dies, so triggers the Revel in Riches for the first time. Let's play ourselves a Reap. We'll just point it over at the Aminatou player who has the most black creatures. Choose all of the cards in our graveyard and bring them all back. Of course there's a fetch in the graveyard here, so we've definitely got Azori's Predation next turn. Although, how many do they need for this? It's 10 treasure tokens. Our creatures aren't going to die, but there will be 4, 5, 6, 7 over here that die. So they'll have 8 treasure for this, which isn't enough, thankfully. So hopefully we'll be safe in going for the Azori's Predation play, if that's what we decide on. Otherwise it's just, I suppose we could tear asunder on that just to make sure that we get rid of it. That way we don't have to play around it for the rest of the game at least. And it gives them a lot less mana to play with. Oh, we've got the Wingstorm back as well, which I forgot about. Damage to each player equal to twice the number of creatures they control with flying. And guess what Inklings have? So, yeah, I think we're definitely taking down this player next turn, so maybe no need to go for the Revel in Riches. So in that case we'll go through to the end step, might as well activate the Nihilea, forgot about that. And that is a Bayou, which we don't need. So into the bin it goes, we'll draw into something else instead. A Beast Within, more spot removal for us. Urza gets its construct ability. So, yeah, if we're going for the Wingstorm, does our opponent have... does he have a counter? Because our opponent should have seen the Wingstorm coming. I mean, this is the more fun play, and he can counter Azori's Predation anyway. So let's just go for this immediately. It's not maximising the amount of tokens that we can give this player, but whatever. So Wingstorm on the stack, we could have gone for something like the Spring Heart first, in order to hand more birds around, and it would have been more damage then. But priority's been passed by the Esper player straight away, so looks as though we've got him on this one. Noteworthy that this is to each player, so it does deal damage to us as well. And our opponent was a great sport about it, went down to -35, this player down to 17, we go down to 33. So now we do have the birds to contend with, unfortunately. We're dealing at least 6 to them here, so I think it's just a case of holding on to our spot removal to try and minimise the amount of damage we take, and then it is the Azori's Predation next turn. So unfortunately I don't think we're going to be swinging in with this. Although, if they don't block, we've got exactly enough on them. Are they going to get in a big creature with haste is the problem. I think we're best just playing conservatively here, as opposed to trying to force them to make blocks, so we'll hold blockers back. So if Felden and 3 cards in hand they'll have, they're probably going after Jingataxius again. But by that time, hopefully, they might draw into counter magic for this is the problem. So Assassin's Trophy onto Felden might not be the worst. They could recast Felden with the Chainer is the problem. So maybe just doing our trick of getting rid of the Jingataxius token again. I think that's just what we have to do, so play a land and pass. Alright, so going straight through to combat seemingly. Everything now able to swing in at us. And deciding to swing in with the Felden makes a decision for us. Maybe there's a board wipe coming after this. But let's make blocks first, so this has trample, so maybe don't bother with that. And then if we block the Felden, that's 14 here, plus 6 is 20, so we go down to 13. I think that's safe. We keep our creatures as well. So yeah, down to 13 we go. Noteworthy that the Azori's Predation doesn't get rid of their 2 big creatures here. It will take some evasive creatures off their board though. And yep, as we suspected, there is a board wipe in Decree of Pain, so do we bother using our spot removal then? I don't think we do. I think we just allow this and we can take some card advantage from Nihilea hopefully. Yes, put our commander in the command zone. They've gone up to 12 cards in hand, and they are tempted by the ring as well, but do not have a ring bearer. And then tapping out during our turn is what we like to see. Apprentice Necromancer. Return a creature from graveyard to battlefield, it gains haste, and then you sack it. Do we want that in play or not? I don't think we do, because we'll just have big creatures to keep contending with. So let's go for a shuffle with the wooded foothills first. And we'll just grab ourselves a forest, I don't think it really matters. Then it can be Assassin's Trophy onto the Apprentice. And we'll activate Nylea again. Alright, and a Bitter Blossom is far too late, so we will definitely put that in the bin. Managed to dig a little bit deeper with the activations on Nylea this game. Our opponent has to discard some cards down to hand size. Got rid of Ancient Silver Dragon, Terror of the Peaks, and Rune-Scarred Demon, so if he's got Mass Reanimation, he may well get us next turn. Alright, Binding of the Old Gods, maybe it's just time to attack our opponent's mana. Not sure if he got a basic last time though, maybe he didn't have enough basics left in the library. He'll have 4, 5, 6 and 7 mana, maybe 8, which means he might not be able to recast his commander. Then the Urza's Saga is being upgraded to a Sol Ring here, I imagine. It's either that or the Haywire Might. So we don't really want to feed our opponent creatures at this point, weirdly enough. Let's get down Binding of the Old Gods. And then we've still got Tear Asunder and Beast Within, which we can probably Beast Within on their upkeep so they can't attack us with it. Binding of the Old Gods goes after the Felwar Stone. Tear Asunder for the Talisman. And then, like I said, we'll Beast Within during their upkeep. Could have also gone after just their blue mana if we thought that that could hurt them, so we could have gone after the Signet instead of the Talisman and then blown up a land. But I think we're okay just doing it this way. So Beast Within onto the Signet as well. 7 cards in our opponent's hand. See if they want to counter this, if they're able to. Managed to get them into a Beast token, and we've got a new Beast token from the new set apparently. And they did manage to make a land, so 8 mana. A Persist, return a non-legendary from graveyard to the battlefield. They get a tutor with Rune-Scarred Demon, so can always go for Living Death or the big reanimation spell, Rising of the Dead or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. I think that's 8 or 9 mana. Ah, there we go, a Living Death, so don't think we've got any creatures, or we've got, yeah, just the one in our graveyard at the moment. So we will get one trigger at least, but yeah, our opponent, as we suggested, is going to get us here because of the Terror of the Peaks and the Mass Reanimation that he had access to. So it's good on our opponent for not giving up. Many a Magic Online player would have done. I'll be interested to see what cards we were drawing into here. The board wipe that he got off before us stopped us from keeping in Azorius Predation relevant. And I'm not sure if I've got any Aristocrat effects in here for the bird tokens. It might be worth having like a Zulaport Cutthroat and Blood Artist type effects for those, because it's only inevitable that they're going to go down. So down we go to Terror of the Peaks and all those creatures entering. I'm assuming it's more than enough here. Yeah, there was another 5 damage from Jingataxius and 9 from the Rampage. Been kicked out into the lobby straight away, so can't see what cards we were going to draw into, but I think that was a fun showing for Rendmaw. Still not seeing absolutely all the interactions that we can have with Rendmaw. Like, I'd really like to get down a Massacre Worm into it at some point. But some of those older cards that care about black creatures being on your opponent's side of the field are fun, so glad I got to show those off. You spoke up a lot about this commander in the last video, so if you want to continue to see more of it, then let me know just like you did in the previous video, and I will be more than happy to oblige that. Big thank you to the patrons as well for their continued financial support. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.